So again, in the Acts of the Apostles, we see the formation of the early church and of the sacramental work of Christ's or of the work of Christ's established sacraments. I think I've said it before here. The first job of a priest is to preach. The most important job of a priest is to offer sacrifice for himself and the people, which is what we do when we say Mass. The first job of a priest is to preach, because without preaching, people don't come to hope in the gift that Christ has, and without hope, we don't have desire. We don't reach out for it and seek it. And so preaching is the advent of the Christ in people's lives. And then the reception of that Christ comes through the work of grace that operates in the sacraments. And we see this absolutely directly here. We see a world fallen. Paul and Silas are being attacked by the very person who's going to, in a sense, by the very person who's going to come to faith here. Being attacked by the world. Nevertheless, they persist and they love the world. They don't back off when there's persecution. They don't say, okay, you win, I'll shut up. They preach, they keep preaching, and they're beaten for it, and they continue to love. And in the midst of their suffering, they direct that love as in the order that it ought to be directed, first to the Lord, but then also for love of their persecutor. This prison guard was about to kill himself because he failed, It might be good if we had consequences to our failures today, maybe not running ourselves through, but this guy took his job so seriously. He in the culture that they had there, he knew he was going to get killed anyway, so he figured he'd do it himself. So he was about to kill himself for his failure, and Paul said, "No, don't do that." Right? Look at the love that's being testified to, as this is preaching as well, right? Being testified to in Paul's admonition to the man not to hurt himself. Don't do the least thing to yourself. We're all still here. It's fine, right? So he's saving him, and this guy is so amazed. And then Paul begins to preach. So there's the evil world, the love of the Christian, despite the evil of the world, despite the persecution, I will continue to love you. There's a miraculous experience, and the miraculous experience, far from being the earthquake, although that is a miraculous experience, it is the miraculous experience is the Paul reaching out to save this person, right? Who prevents him from killing himself. Miracles don't have to be miracles don't have to be something contrary to the natural order of things, right? That's the highest form of a miracle that we know, that we experience. God doing something contrary to the natural order that he sets up. He makes time go back. He makes the sun stand still. But miracles are anything that work out in a coincidental way that advances God's providence in our life that we can recognize, right? So it's totally fine to say, my spouse is coming into the church after however many years. That's a miracle. Yeah, it is a miracle. You're absolutely right about talking about that way. So here's this guy. So we have evil. We have the love of Christians towards that. We have this sort of reaching out to save them. So a sort of a miraculous thing to draw their attention, and then the preaching. Right. Then Paul says, "Let me tell you about this God whom we love. Do no harm to yourself. I brought them in. Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" Right? So they recognize that Paul and Silas have something. He wants to know what it is. He wants to know how to be saved, and they tell him, Jesus is the way. He's like, okay, tell me more. So he preaches to them, and in the preaching, what's he say here? Because it's. He took them in at that hour and night, bathed their wounds, and then he and all his family were baptized at once. And this is the culmination of this whole movement here of Christ coming into the darkness of a world who despite the world's hatred of him continues to love them, and in loving them is persecuted, and being persecuted dies on the cross in a persistence of love, and through that persistence of love saves humanity. Every Christian lives in this cosmic cycle of salvation. The world hates us, and let me tell you, if the world doesn't hate us, we've got to ask ourselves if we're not doing something wrong, right? The world hates us. We're at war with the world, and that doesn't necessarily mean that people are out to stone you every day, but there is a conflict. There's a grading of ourselves against the normal operation of the world. The world hates us. We love the world. We love people in the world. People see that love. They respond to us and say, "What is it that you have that? Because I want it." We tell them about Jesus, and they come to the font of baptism. They come to the pouring out of Christ's water and blood from his side, come to the font of baptism, receive the Holy Spirit in confirmation, and the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus in the Eucharist, right? So this cycle of the advent of Christ taking on flesh, passion, death, resurrection, is happening here in an ecclesial way, like a seminal ecclesial way, I should say. They're kind of just figuring out how they're going to do this thing, how the Lord is sort of modeling it for them here, right? And then every day in the life of the church, we are entering into that same evangelical, salvific cycle, whereby we reach out into a dark world at our own risk, at our own peril, to love those who are there. They are attracted by the love that we express to them, a true love, a love that's sometimes hard, a love that's sometimes embarrassing and admonishing, but always faithful, always nurturing, always building up, healing. And they come to us, and then we bring them to Christ through the sacraments, right? So again, pay very close attention to the cycle of the Acts of the Apostles that we read during Easter, because it is showing how the seminal church, that's the seed of the church that comes from Christ's resurrection and the outpouring of the Holy Spirit at Pentecost, is sort of being formed into the very church in which we live today, right? This is the church. This is the church of the Acts of the Apostles. This is the church of Jesus Christ. This is the church of Augustine of Canterbury. Is it Augustine of Canterbury? Yeah, Augustine of Canterbury. This is the church of Ignatius of Loyola. This is the church of Jesus, right? And springing out from the seedbed of Christ's own passion, death, and resurrection, the seed of the church is budding forth here in the Acts of the Apostles, and we are not only continuing to bear fruit ourselves, living in the church, but we also, because of all of these saints that we celebrate throughout the calendar of the church, enjoy the fruits of that church as well.